Welcome to my lovely IHP community. This is a 5D mystic reading for my lovely, lovely mystics, those of you who have a relationship with the energetic spheres. And so today we have a new moon, and I chose to channel some guidance as well as use the lovely oracle decks that I have. One, I forget what it's called, but I have 3 of the cards with me, and the other actually is the Crystal Oversoul cards. So on that note, I'll be moving around a little bit, and this is going to most likely be put on the podcast as well in case anyone is tuning in. Though there's a video on YouTube and I'm probably going to look away because I'm not used to actually channeling through video. I only do audio primarily. And again, number 1 is our lovely sun, and I love that this is the energy for my 5D. I know that any one of you who's in the Enlightenment Soul Age group as a mystic has definitely looked forward to being able to move into your wholeness. That means an integrated mind and a restorative embodied self. A person who does tend to your own unconditional love, and so you accept your flaws, your imperfections. You accept others' flaws and imperfections, and no matter what aspects you've been dealt, if you will, you don't consider them dealings. In fact, you consider them opportunities for you to create, and that's creating anything and everything. So some of you might be entrepreneurs like me and content creators. It's a beautiful land, but others of you may simply be creators in a different state. You work with your hands, so maybe you're artists, and that's your way of sharing. Or you create families, and so you are within a family dynamic, mothers, fathers, all. And others of you are spirituality leaders, and so you're moving into the role of guidance to others in a way of helping them to become flowers that blossom and birds that sing their own song. And this is because all of you are differentiated selves. So this means you do not tell people who to be. You do not use your clairs and think that you are here to condemn, that you're not a light versus a dark anything. You're a person who understands what it means to be a person. And all that you do within your relationships is this. That's the one and only thing. It's always a new beginning. It's always pure love. There is no pure evil. If anything, pure evil is a person who has defectiveness, which is shame, which can be dissolved only through compassion beyond a reason. So mirroring compassion to a human being as they're in their biological rudeness is the 5D space, because you're green, you're in your social engagement ventral vagal system with another human being, while they might be in their yellow and they might not be hearing you and they might have their laser beam, so they're in adaptive child response. You, the 5D person, is there not as an intuitive to say, let me tell you how I know your future. That's not what an intuitive in the 5D spectrum is. And when we meet people like that, believe me, we do a lot of containment within ourselves. I've learned very well how to be with Shiva and Kali and Krishna Lila, and I'm still practicing. And thank you, Sadhguru, for sharing these words with me, because although I know they have a whole story, to a 5D person, we will know Shiva, nothingness, because we will have acknowledged that we are no one and nobody, and that we do not matter. Because we cannot tend to those who have shame and feel defective. Why? Because they are the ones that from their heart are being given a hand so that they may dissolve it. Dissolving it means you welcome the hand, and it means you welcome conversation, and it means you recognize that we are all one family. Being in 5D, you acknowledge this fabric of consciousness is called energy 1, and if we need to call it anything real, it's being a human being. So you treat people the way you want to be treated, from the heart and the mind, not making up excuses for why it's okay to get into another sphere. Some of us have the availability to be in a state of clarity because we use our third eye, our cortex, because our brain stem doesn't take over, because we have a relationship with our brain stem. What does that mean? When we get into our modes, Kali mode, Shiva's there for us to remind us we all have an ego, and the world doesn't revolve around any one of the egos. So our ego doesn't go anywhere. In fact, I've never experienced the ego death in the way the 4D community likes to talk about it. But I know people that have human suffering, and they did get out of the shame defectiveness cycle, and they went through ego death because they had to peel away at layers and layers and layers of aspects that had no business in their actual desires. The safe base is when you can be your, what's the word? You can be the person who will stand up and give yourself a, there you go after what excites you, versus some need people to tell them that. So that's why they're not always following their own heart, because the shame dissolving is, again, you coming to terms with, I am worthy, however I am. I'm a differentiated self. I don't have to do what my family or whoever it is told me was good or not good. When you see people complaining about systems and family, and they're in a state of, someone's holding me down, they've not taken ownership of their self. They've in fact not moved into their adult. They're in an adaptive child with their ears shut down. They're not in their third eye. They're in yellow, by the way. They're not in their ventral vagal. They are not hearing because they have also tunnel vision, and they have no empathy, and they don't know how to have different perspectives in that moment. That's where the 4D people, 3D people, and they're not good or bad people. They're stubborn people. We're all stubborn. The difference is some people make their life their business. So again, the people with shame, when they're out, they've peeled away at all the things that they were embarking on that did not give them energy, life force inside. That was like, I have to do this again. Or, I'm in this situation that I really don't like, but if I don't do it, I'm a failure. Now, I'm speaking in this way. When people actually don't have self-confidence, and they live their life based on getting this thumbs up from society, here's what it feels like for a person as they don't meet the demands that they've been taught they should meet. And this is for those who have shame cycles, not the ones of us who have love, which is why people will think that we're pretty much indifferent, and it is because we are, but not because we don't emotionally care. We're indifferent to you wanting to tell us how to live our life because we know what we want, we know what we like, we're pursuing it. When your body is your safe haven and your safe base, somebody can say, your stuff makes no sense, and they've done that, and I'm like, I know, but to some people it makes sense, and it's for those people that I'm here for, not for anybody else, because being yourself is pretty awesome. And I'd say the infinite higher human consciousness way is pretty awesome too, because you get to lead with your own heart, and your own feminine is your body, by the way, and wearing your heart on your sleeve and on your face is what we love doing best. So we don't hide our vulnerability because we're okay with being vulnerable. That's the 5D person. So we don't use our emotions in a way of, let me hurt you, let me hide. No, we share. The shame is different. The shame cycle, they move through other lenses, and I'm not here to channel that. In fact, I'm going to disengage immediately because they always get me to sidetrack. Those energies are definitely around, by the way, and FYI, any of the astrological events bring up unresolved trauma. So the people who want to grow up, they're going to grow up. The ones who won't, just smile and nod. When people want to be right, smiling and nodding, most will not even notice because, again, they're too busy. Like this, they're also emotional. The only ones who will notice, you will be able to say, I really don't agree with you, but I don't think this is a conversation right now. I think what we're doing right now is agreeing to disagree. Seems to me it would be probably better for us not to continue, because otherwise we're going to get into an argument. There's no need for that. I've actually had people, it's funny when it's happened because I'm like, wow, where did this come from? Random, complete random people. We're having a conversation. This is usually work related because I pick my loved ones in a way that is quite straightforward. And what I mean by that is I'm always straightforward. So if I start not liking something, I'm going to be like, your tone, like when I get told about my tone, I say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to try it again. And I actually tried again. So grown-ups, again, we use words. We don't hide our hearts, 5D. And transformation, in fact, the lovely butterfly. Did anybody notice how the beautiful butterfly? So, being able to see your own subconscious and conscious is you being able to sense the body of yours, which is why the Enlightenment soul age group is actually mastering their physical plane at this time. But some people are still mastering their emotional plane. Those would be some of you, obviously. The emotional plane, as I was saying, let me move to the example of when someone feels like a failure when they're not, because society raised them and they're not aware that they can disengage from the structure, and they can disengage from it because it won't mean you're no longer with your family. What it means is this type of lifestyle doesn't appeal to me. This type of dynamic, this relationship, this specific job doesn't appeal to me here, does not give me energy. And what's funny actually is that I got shared that Harvard, I think it is, has been studying for the past 80 years or something like that, how to be happy and in wellness. Everything they listed, those of us who are 5D in the Enlightenment soul age group from a love cycle have done our entire life. And what I'm learning from the trauma experts, somatic experts, and the good ones, again, is that people can do this by moving towards integration of the mind, working with their brainstem, the reactiveness, by knowing there is no shame in having anger, frustration, all these things, rumination, all of it is normal, and it's something that you can get out of. So yoga, portfolio of ventral vagal nerve toning, that's why it works. Sitting in meditation allows you to start working with your cortex. If you don't move your brain into thinking out of the loop thinking, and so making assumptions on people, which 4D do all the time, and thinking you know more, not going to actually have conversations, and you're also not going to move out of a body that is saying, oh, I'm not safe, I need to assume because I'm going to know everything. You're going to lie. Don't build anything. Just stay all alone with the mountains and the trees. And that's where when people start talking to me about that, I'm like, okay, you want to keep assuming that you know everything about another human being versus create what is called a relationship and know that emotionally speaking, nothing is set in stone with people. They can speak out of their mouth all day long, I'm going to be here forever. It doesn't mean anything. In fact, we have plenty of proof that it doesn't mean anything. The part that people don't focus on is becoming their own safe haven, accepting who you are as you are with unconditional love. You have flaws and imperfections, so do I. We all have egos. We're not defective. The feeling of defectiveness is the one that the people that want to think they know they're grown up, they don't find. And that's why they get all rigid. And then they start to, or they don't get rigid, they get low energy. So again, I'm going to use the example of when people are not yet masters of their emotional plane, in case some of you want to become masters of it. It means to be loyal to your heart. And it means no tricks, so you don't hide a heart. You don't speak a lie. You don't manipulate others' emotion. You don't manipulate in the sense of you have honest, authentic, transparent interactions. You embody who you want to be. You embody how you want people to treat you, not once, not twice, and not based on what they do, based on you. You choose to be the self of you that you want to be. The only ones who feel it odd to say, I'm going to be myself, are the same ones who have yet to work with this defectiveness. And it's a heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart, which requires either the person to be aware of their sensations as they arise, that window of tolerance. And that means you maintain a level of clarity as you're contemplating what's arising. So it means you can sit in your body. And you can handle your words and you can handle yourself. So you're still in a safe body, which means you learn to self-soothe, you learn to self-regulate, and you walk yourself through what is self-compassion. And this is you learning how to master emotions versus disregarding them. some people, they have a complete disconnectedness from their body, like the avoidant. And that's because they had their body shut that down when they were an infant and they were not getting contingent communication. And so when they begin to create a connection, it feels very overwhelming because they don't have practice with the right mode and the emotions that arise. And it's because of this feeling of having to shut it down, but still long to attach, because that's part of our system. So there's a longing to attach, but there's the remembering that there was not the ability. And then shame also will come into the mix, because when the caregiver is not able to meet the contingent communication, the infant needs to make sense of why that's happening. Or somehow there's, I must be defective. I must be the problem, because the only lifeline is basically the caregiver. And this is what all the psychoeducators are explaining. I know some people don't believe in it because they don't believe the body has anything to do, but that's because they don't understand it's the brainstem that communicates. So our triune brain, they for now talk about it as a 3-layered. The brainstem, the reptilian, communicates fight, flight, freeze, or all is good, we're safe and dandy. Then we got this limbic system, that's where the emotions are at, the amygdala, and I believe the temporal junction might be around there somewhere, the hippocampus for sure, so the memory center. And we relate with emotions, or it alerts us to something of value, of importance. And then the cortex, neocortex, the prefrontal cortex, our executive decision makers. When you name an emotion, I'm feeling sad, they say that in the scans it shows that it moves from this temporal junction or the side to the prefrontal cortex, and that's the minute you could be mindful of it. But walking yourself through the emotion doesn't mean thinking thoughts. It actually just means, wow, I have this emotion in my body, and then maybe you can say, what is it trying to tell me? But here's where, again, if you're in equanimity, that'll go somewhere, inner growth. If you're in, I'm right, they're wrong, no, that's adaptive child. And that's going to just sit you down in a battlefield within your inner critic, outer critic. And then, again, this is shame cycle denying through compulsive activity, drugs, sex, alcohol, food, and other activities that do not lead you to being your safe base and safe haven, and withdrawing, isolation. That's why people will stay in these loops endlessly in a biochemistry of fear without knowing that fear is basically their body in a stressed out state. It doesn't look like that's a different. I've had the experience of pure fear. It's quite interesting, to say the least. Very uncomfortable, just like a panic attack, but very different than a panic attack. And I was able to manage it, get to where I was going, leave, and all of that. Was it something I'm happy to? No, but I was there. I did it. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I'm talking. So being loyal to yourself is easy when you don't have this idea of shame and unworthiness, and when instead people have it hiding. So if I'm a caregiver, let's say, and I am a person with flaws that I consider are making me a broken human being. So when we look at anger, when people get angry, they then feel shame. They don't control their brainstem. The brainstem, there's a memory. It's called implicit memory. And so that's why you work with people, with your emotional triggers, and the people that love you are the ones who are here for you if they're functional adults, which is why we have the episodes on functional adult love language. For the actual 5D self-empowered person who wants to help their family, because that's what family does. We stick together and we create what is a joyous beginning and ending, and we allow ourselves to know what creativeness is in the entire planet, not just with one group. Creating a safe environment means not yelling at each other about anything, belief systems or not. So when you can speak in a way that is of, let me get these lovely other cards before we run out of time, in this lovely 5D, which is a state of consciousness of unconditional love, neutrality. When somebody tells me I'm a failure, I will tell them you are not. But I will know that only they can choose if they're going to let society decide what they're going to be, or if they're going to follow what speaks to their soul. If you have a soul, meaning a heart, it speaks to you. So you'll know who is right now enriching you, and you're like, I like that person. I want more of that person. Or topics, I want to hear more. And we add. The 5D person doesn't remove anyone. The only ones who remove are the ones who surrounded themselves, and that's for a whole nother topic, but they don't remove if they enlighten. They understand, they are grateful, they respect, and they learn how to create conversations. So any person, they learn how to say, hey, adaptive children, I'm a grown-up now. I love you and I want you in my life. Here's how things are going to go. And it's very easy because adaptive children don't realize things they don't want to. And they're busy with the other children playing in the ways that they like to play. So that's why it's a very, very undisruptive cycle and transformation, the 5D one. So you learn to love more and more and more. These are beautiful for anybody. And we have what is air and heart, celestial flow of light, and appreciation. So sometimes you're actively in this lovely flow. Other times you're letting go and resting. This is where sometimes you're giving, sometimes you're receiving. Learning the balance is easy with appreciation because we appreciate each other with our imperfections and flaws. Furthermore, we also breathe in appreciation, and we also have a lovely powering and grounding of that breath. So you settle into it, and this expands the joy of life. You're open to your inner child. You're open to being who you are, and you're open to sharing your true heart with people because there's nothing to be afraid of when you are self-empowered. And for our last, your inner guidance. This is you trusting your own inner source. This is you, part of the Lemurian, potentially for those lovely mystics. And this is ether and throat. The others were heart and throat, air and ether, earth and base, water and sacral. So I didn't do them in any order, but this aqua aura, very beautiful, and 6, it's harmony. So remember, emotionally speaking, nothing is set in stone, but no tricks. And being loyal means you being the heart of you, and then knowing that people, they're all loved ones and imperfect. Let's support each other to become functional adults. Let's support each other to be in this lovely oneness consciousness. Your head and your body can communicate effectively, and if you need help, there's great somatic sensory motor and trauma experts or mentors. I'm also adding to my lovely repertoire of certificates, mindfulness, meditation, and life coach, holistic. But at the end of the day, it's all about you pursuing your own inner growth, being yourself, the wonderful person you are, inspiring your higher human potential, because if there's anything more awesome than being unique, every one of us is that. And when we can learn to be grown-ups with it, and then we can learn to bring the world to take care of our air, our water, our food, and see how we can get our countries to work together too. We're doing what we can to create a safe haven and a safe base for other people too. So looking forward to being back. In the meantime, have a wonderful new moon.